I'm Emily from NISTS. On behalf of all of my colleagues here, Janet, Judith, and Joe, and all of our transfer community, welcome to today's webinar. We're really thrilled to have you with us. And we're extra excited to be able to spotlight Strategy 1 from the second edition of the Transfer Playbook. We were able to preview this document, the thing in full, back in February, and we were super excited when it got published back in March. And so this is great to have the lead authors with us today and several of the representatives of institutions spotlighted in the playbook here to talk us through the specific things they did to try to achieve these strategies on their campus. But with that, I want to hand it over to John to take it away and let's get started. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Emily, and good afternoon, good morning, everyone. Thank you, NISTS, for hosting this. And my name is John Fink. I work at the Community College Research Center at Teachers College Columbia. We partner with Tanya and Aspen Institute on this project, tracking transfer in the Transfer Playbook. And I'm just so pumped to be here with this rock star panel that we'll get to spend most of the time discussing. But just on the next slide, I wanted to sort of kick things off with a little refresher from our learning from the tracking transfer and the partnership with the clearinghouse around looking at community college transfer student outcomes. Like in the next slide, this is work that we've updated most every year since 2016. And these low numbers for transfer and bachelor's completion haven't changed a whole lot. And it really continues to be such a challenge for our post-secondary system and a challenge for community colleges where the vast majority of students want to transfer and get a bachelor's degree. And really they should, because what we see is that the bachelor's degree and graduate degrees really are a growing path to good jobs and economic prosperity. But fewer than half, just about a third of students ever transfer to a four-year institution. So many students are sort of lost in that pathway. And then fewer than a fifth do complete the bachelor's degree after a 6-year span. So these are really low outcomes, but in the next slide, we see too that the disparities on groups are pretty high. So, you know, these are low outcomes overall, but especially challenging for Black, Hispanic, Native American low-income students and older adults who are starting in higher ed 25 or older. And it just highlights really the need to serve those that could benefit perhaps the most from the economic prosperity that a bachelor's or graduate degree can provide. Now, what I should say is that these are national numbers, but what is encouraging in the next slide is that there is a lot of variation across states, to be sure. So some states on the whole are doing better than others, but there's actually the most variation at the local level, at the level of individual institutions and individual transfer partnerships like the two that we have on the line today. And this is a very sort of nerdy, fun chart, but it's basically just showing you, like, for each state, there are some community colleges that actually have pretty high transfer out rates or actually have pretty high bachelor completion rates. And really sort of in any state, there is much stronger transfer outcomes happening. And I think that this is more of an encouraging finding here because it shows you what's possible when the right strategies and practices are implemented. And in the transfer playbook on the next slide, what we did is we took the national data from the clearinghouse, and you know, there's thousands of transfer partnerships out there in the country where with at least one student transferring from community college to university. We identified this sort of subset. Initially, it was 252 of those thousands of partnerships that had particularly strong transfer outcomes overall, as well as specifically for Black, Hispanic, and lower income students, and smaller disparities. So it was a combination of factors, but these were particular partnerships that were doing really well overall and for those particular groups. And we sort of looked at that list, we kind of ranked them, we did a bunch of interviews, screening calls with these partnerships, and we eventually conducted 11 really in-depth multi-day site visits where we spent time at a community college and the university to just learn and understand what are these partnerships doing that might explain their strong outcomes. And this is what we wrote in the Transfer Playbook. On the next slide, you know, it shows the title that we released earlier this year. And on the next slide, there are really kind of 3 core strategies. And the webinar series is based around these 3. And we're sort of on the first one here today, strategy 1. And there's a lot more detail in the playbook, and we're going to really dive into the first strategy. But what I would say is that all of these three things really work together and support each other. The first strategy being prioritizing transfer at the executive level to achieve sustainable success on a large scale, not just for a small subset of students. Second strategy being aligning the program pathways and including not just the courses, but the instruction and pedagogy to promote success and timely completion with few credits or no credits lost. And then strengthening and investing in tailoring, transfer, advising, and other supports to support students and foster trust and engagement. And I think particularly as we talk about this first strategy, that sort of prioritization and investment is essential if you're going to do the other two well. If you're going to build the pathways and sort of invest in advising and supports. And so I think that really sets up the importance of this first strategy and why this is a first strategy. It's about prioritizing transfer. And I'm going to pass it to my colleague, Tanya, who's going to dive more into that one.
Thanks so much, John. Hi, everyone. I'm Tanya LaViolet. I'm the Director of Research and Innovation at the Aspen Institute College Excellence Program. Really glad to be with you all today, as well as my partner in research, John Fink, and our esteemed panelists today. So, prioritizing transfer at the executive level. When we go across the country in our field work, I think there are a lot of people and institutional leaders that would say that they prioritize transfer. What we found at these exemplar institutions in the playbook was that prioritizing transfer really looks differently at those schools that have achieved these really strong outcomes overall and for historically underserved groups. So what does it mean? Prioritize can be a really squishy word. What does it mean in practice to prioritize transfer student access and success? So we really broke it down into three essential practices with some strategies or tactics that undergird those essential practices. So the first essential practice in prioritizing transfer is president-led, team-based, and well-resourced partnerships. Yes, you can do this work at an individual institution level, but the strongest outcomes are really due to strong partnership between community colleges and four-year institutions. What did that look like at these exemplar sites in the playbook? A shared president-led vision for what the partnership could accomplish together. And it's not just that they had this vision and that it was on paper, it was clearly communicated with key stakeholders so that across the campuses, across the partnership, people understood why transfer was important to their institution's mission, to the everyday operations of the institutions and the partnership. Individual and shared investment, including funding and dedicated staff, that includes having people time and the resources for those people to do their jobs well to support transfer student success, and then cabinet supported teams that advance strategy, implementation, relationship building, and collaboration. So how can you make sure that those at the very top of the organization are supporting those who are doing the work on the ground and have the time to be able to implement what we call end-to-end redesign of the transfer student experience. So if we move on to the next slide, essential practice 2. This is one that I really want to impress upon you. What really distinguished the partnerships in the transfer playbook was, yes, there are these individual incremental practices that really matter to the student experience. But what distinguished these partnerships in the transfer playbook was that they brought them all together in a full redesign of the transfer students experience. So it wasn't just about credit transfer. It was about a full experience from the time students enter community college or before, all the way through graduating a bachelor's degree, addressing the challenges along the way. And what that looks like in practice, these models that extend beyond credit articulation, strategies tailored to the regional needs of of local students. And every student could be a transfer student approach, meaning not waiting for students to raise their hand, because by then disparities and inequities are already introduced, and attention to affordability and financial aid. And then finally, the last essential practice in this strategy is routinize transfer student-centered systems and processes. While these reforms were driven by teams of collaborative teams, what these teams did that was different was that they use their people power to then influence real processes and systems that would outlast any of their tenures. So automation, technology, these predictable processes that could be run by people who would take over these processes in the future. And they also made sure that they had the data at their disposal to promote accountability, case making, and inform continuous improvement. What I love and admire about these leaders that we've brought to the panel today is that yes, they are at the forefront of achieving strong transfer student outcomes, but they always are looking at the data. They're always looking at the transfer student experiences, and they're asking, what more can we do? And so with that, I'd like to introduce our panelists who can really bring the playbook findings to life. We have Jennifer Nelson and Rita Alcala from the advanced program between Northern Virginia Community College and George Mason University, and Ashley Harrington, Christina Gonzalez, and Marcy Hurtado from the Arizona Western College and Northern Arizona University partnership. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn it over to the AWC and NAU teams to kick us off with just some background about their partnership, and then we'll shift over to Jen and Rita to go over some behind the scenes findings from Advance, and then we'll go into a panel. Welcome, panelists, AWC and NAU team. It's over to you.
Thank you, Tanya. Can everybody hear us okay? No technology snafus. All right. Welcome. It's lovely to be here. Speaking of partnerships, Christina and I are together here on the screen. Our partner in crime, Marcy Hurtado, from our NAU partnership. Thank you for the opportunity to celebrate a little bit of the magic that occurs here in Arizona between AWC and NAU. And hopefully you'll learn a little bit about why it is a great day to be a matador and a lumberjack. So we'll go ahead and move forward. A little bit about Arizona Western College. I am going to call out specifically our mission statement of transforming lives through education and partnerships to create thriving communities. This is our guiding light. This is our governing board approved direction. And this is what influences our work, our discussions, our styles, our changes, and what is the lead to our executive leadership as well. A little bit about AWC is we are in the southwest region of the state of Arizona. So if you have been to Phoenix before, we are between Phoenix and San Diego. If you have been to Arizona, we are on the way and often a pass-through destination, but we are a small and mighty community. Any salad you eat in your communities between September and April came from our Yuma Valley. Any watermelons, cantaloupe that you eat right now, coming from this valley. So while we have a small and mighty footprint within the southwest region of Arizona, we have a tremendous international impact, which is where education programs have such a central role to a community forward and community driven industry and options. Our students are largely first generation, which we celebrate in a real special way regularly, and that our teams and our presidents know that that is a part of the secret sauce that really allows us to bring creativity, stylistic changes, as well as partners like NAU with us, whom equally embrace that opportunity. As an HSI designated institution, and I think we've been that designation since before it was a thing in the late 80s, 78% of our current population identifies as Hispanic. That is our superpower, which also means it brings a ton of diversity, a ton of different ideas, a ton of languages, and is equally reflective of the unique communities we serve, not just in Arizona, but also as part of our larger nation. I'm going to share it and kick it over to Marcy to introduce what makes NAU so special.
Thank you, Ashley. A little bit about Northern Arizona University. We've been partners with Arizona Western College, as Ashley has shared, in our community since 1988. Over 30 years of our partnership, we have served our border community. So again, as Ashley shared a little bit about our Yuma community, we are, again, co-located on the same campus. We are a Hispanic serving institution, and we serve many underrepresented students of different backgrounds. Also, again, majority first generation. We have over 30 programs locally, both undergraduate and graduate for our students, and that's really critical because many of our students want to stay close to home and their families. So really just making that opportunity accessible for our students. And again, depending on each student, every student wants a different type of transfer experience. So again, Northern Arizona University very much committed to the transfer journey for our students. Over 20 campus locations across our state, offering 200 and more programs. And again, we're really supporting our students that come from the Arizona Western College community to really support them in their goals and their dreams to achieve that bachelor's degree. So again, I really appreciate Ashley sharing that background. But again, this work happens together as partners, and we couldn't do this work without each other. And next slide.
So I have a pop quiz because if it's not with a quiz or some sort of test, it's not higher ed. I'm going to challenge you to find, there's 2 words that are the same within each institution's mission and vision statement. You can use the chat. It will probably very quickly jump out to you. And these might even be words that you are also including in your own mission statement, in your own vision statements, or in your leading documents. Oh, look it. We've got some winners. Oh, great. We are right on track. Communities, transformation, lives, none of that is related to higher ed alone, right? So the power to be able to have continuity between our institutions, as well as those being the driving beacons from our executive leadership all the way through, is what allows that shared understanding from the get-go. We're on the same page and looking in the same direction. How we get there will be different, but having that same shared understanding is really what's critical. And that's from boards all the way through our teams. We like words, and words matter. And so something a little playful that our college created in our strategic plan back in 2017 is our BHAG, our big, hairy, audacious goal. You may have these at your institutions. This became a very fun, playful way to encourage the conversation of where each role was partnering with our executive vision for what's happening across our institutions, which had different push-pull measures. Doubling the baccalaureate attainment of degrees in La Paz and Yuma County by 2035 was a crazy idea and really broke down barriers, because when this was written, Arizona Western College and institutions in Arizona of community colleges could not offer bachelor degrees, which meant we were pushing on a lever that we'd have very little ability to measure alone. We understood that our college was part of the process, part of the pipeline, and part of the necessary partnership for our communities to be able to meet this goal. Statutorily, in 2021, the state changed, which allowed community colleges to choose the option. AWC chose to double down on our exclusive prioritization, which was offering 100 and 200 level courses exclusively by the community college. That was a shared agreement between our presidents. Clear agreements make great partnerships. Also kept us out of the way of 300 and 400 level process programs that our NAU partners were exclusively going to then be providing. That supported that shared direction, as well as the ability to build on that shared direction. We are on track to continue to build that number. And in 2025, this continues to be part of our conversation as our community is demanding it. Our expectation of our workforce is choosing for it to be a priority as well. And it's also a very fun conversation starter for individuals who don't know higher ed or don't know how to talk about anything other than, well, that's just a campus. That's just a class. It's far more than that. And playful ways like this become an opportunity to bring more conversation in. Marcy?
Thank you, Ashley. And I would just share and add on to that. Really our alignment of our goals through strategic planning and really supporting this understanding of holistically that support that a student needs through the entire life cycle. That has been our consistent impact and really wanting to drive more students to benefit that transformational social impact and economic mobility of post-secondary attainment in our communities. Really, we want to, again, continue that momentum and helping the student all throughout that journey. And NAU RAISE, again, is aligned to AWC's strategic plan and mission. Can move to the next slide.
Something John spoke to earlier in the beginning, and it's referenced quite heavily in the playbook. If you haven't read all 64 pages, spend some time in it. But this really speaks to the magic that occurs between alignment of executive leadership. And let me be real clear, we've not always gotten it right. But what these pictures show are a couple different styles of personalities we have. The top left photo leading the walkout of our shared commencement celebration is Dr. Kaur, our president, on the left, Dr. Cruz Rivera from NAU on the right. Walking together, they're smiling. They had Diet Coke and coffee before they did that. They are aware and able to celebrate together. And through our student success, each of our institutions are reaching success. The next pair of individuals in that same photo is our governing board chair. That means that this isn't only an executive presidential level and cabinet level, because to the right of our board chair booth, to the right is Dr. Michael Sabbath, whom is part of the leadership, cabinet leadership here at the NAU Yuma site. Again, it is part of what we do and how we do it in every dimension of our leadership team. On the bottom left is that shared stage. So we love all three of our state university partners the same, but what makes our partnership with NAU Yuma real special is this celebration is something that we all choose to forward focus only on students. We don't bring in special speakers from universities. We actually don't allow it. It is exclusively student-led, and we just simply need to have the appropriate leadership based off of our statutes conveying the degrees. To the right of that executive leadership team is our shared transfer center. AWC and NAU, back during the 22-23 state legislative cycle, published and requested a state bill requesting for funneled dollars to develop a shared transfer center where 4 institutions under one roof with $1.5 million would be able to see where our students are coming from, meet them where they're at, and deliver their options across the state, across the globe, for where they wanted to go with their education. That has enabled barriers to be broken down for student understanding and has enabled our individuals, our people, which is part of the secret sauce, to be leading those conversations with the students, not our executive leaders trying to be in the way. So this space has really supported that shared support, shared visibility, and guidance to students so they're not left behind. Marcy, anything you wish to add?
No, just really, again, that critical work together. We partner regularly on a daily basis, you know, with the Transfer Center, and it's been an amazing opportunity for our teams to really connect. And, you know, this means shared events, this means shared community with our students and peer mentoring. So there's quite a bit of that going on in that Transfer Center. And we really do appreciate that opportunity where we can host a FAFSA workshop together and just really celebrate students and give them what they need to be successful in their transfer journey. All right, next slide.
You can tell that there's a lot of opportunity to really bring the partnership forward. The universal admissions is one of our most recent advancements to admit to a community college students that are not quite ready for the NAU experience. They come, are supported, nurtured, and developed to a supportive level achieve their associates, and then transfer seamlessly to NAU. They can choose the NAU Yuma campus, they can choose the NAU Flagstaff campus or Phoenix campus. But again, being able to meet our students where they're at and be able to leverage 2 sets of resources, multiple partnerships, and really be responsive to various community needs across the state has been an example that we were happy to feature in the playbook, but also show overall, when you're looking in the same way, so much is possible. Marcy, will you speak to the other successes?
Yes. So I wanted to share with you on the screen, you'll see the Helios Education Foundation. They were actually our sponsor, and so they promote philanthropic funding for the state of Arizona, an opportunity for post-secondary advancement. Helios sponsored our Yuma Educational Success Program, which you will see Say Yes to Success is our slogan. It is a partnership with our local high school district, Arizona Western College, and NAU. So this student has to be on this journey through this very, very specific pathway. It was an implementation project that was created to advance systemic change in post-secondary education attainment in our Yuma County, but it focused really on increasing our college retention, persistence, and baccalaureate completion rates. I do want to share a couple just important evidence of our success through the project. We've had a 95% participation satisfaction of our cohort students, 52% of our cohort students transfer, 60% of our cohort students held a GPA of a 3.0 or above, 86% of our students utilize services provided by the program, 90% of our students are retained year over year, and 83% right now are at bachelor's completion rate. So again, we've really celebrated the success of the Yuma Educational Success Program and really continue to use that program as a model for our best practices. The other important project that you will see is the PACTO grant. It was actually initiated before the YES program, but it was Partners Advancing Completion through Transfer Opportunities, Title V grant. But very much a capacity building grant where we were testing and piloting some services and shared access to our community spaces on campus, again, co-located, but allowing our students at AWC and NAU to access the same community services. And really what I will say is it was an opportunity for us to also build this opportunity to collaborate very closely with our colleagues at the community college and build a really successful referral system where we can go and refer students, share data, have that opportunity to really impact the student and make sure that it's a seamless pathway for them throughout their journey. The 2NAU program is a program that allows a community college student an opportunity for a seamless pathway support. Once the student raises their hand that they're interested to become an NAU student, they will complete an agreement, and it allows our NAU team members to start working early. What we've noticed in all of the work that we've done is early interactions with our students make a difference. Building that rapport with our NAU team members and them learning our services early on as well, it makes a big difference in their journey. And then the other important component for our students is we want them to gain access to more transfer scholarships. And so the 2NAU program allows that student to, again, really go over cost of attendance and really start planning again for that opportunity of transfer scholarships and making sure that it meets them and their families' needs. I'll go ahead and give it on over to Ashley to just share with you about some of the work with guided pathways.
Sure. Yes, so sorry, this is Christina. What some of the work and even with one of the things that we noticed, it's an ongoing process here at AWC. We continue to make changes. And as a result of the STEP plan that we were part of the #3 cohort, one of the things that we realized is that we wanted to create that clear pathways for our students. As Marcy mentioned, the earlier we can see them, the better chance we have to work with them and continue that pathways for them. So a couple of things that we're working on is creating that four-year pathways for our students. So creating the program maps while they're at AWC, and then what that program map would consist of once they transfer to NAU. So we have different teams participating in that committee, both from AWC and from NAU. and working towards that same goal. I don't want to add anything else.
Marcy, anything else you would add?
It just, again, after the success of each of our projects, the community college and also here our team members at NAU, we're very much committed to sustaining everything that we've put into place. And so that has continued a lot of the momentum of the many projects that we've continued to work on. And again, we're tracking the data and the success of each of our projects that we are implementing and putting into place.
So I think the last thing we'll leave with you, if there's anything we can support, help refine, help make sure you don't make our same mistakes, or if there is agreements we can share, clear agreements make clear partnerships, and that includes data sharing, it includes articulation, space use. The devil's in the details there, but it is definitely possible if you're willing to have brave conversations and you're willing to look from the student's perspective what they need and how to get there. Thanks for letting us share a little bit, and we look forward to conversations with you. And know that today it is a great day to be a matador and a lumberjack.
Thank you, Ashley, Marcy, and Christina. I'm now going to turn it over to Rita and Jen. I'm going to do a quick question for all of the panelists, and then we'll go straight into Q&A from there. But Rita, Jen, over to you.
Yes, thank you so much, Tanya. Hi, Rita Alcala. I'm the operational designer of Advance and the interim executive director. I'll go ahead and let Jen introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jen Nelson, and I'm the director of university transfer and initiatives at Northern Virginia Community College, which we call NOVA.
All right, thank you so much, Jen. And we're going to go ahead and try to zip through this so we can get to those panel questions. So what is Advance? Advance is a dual admission transfer partnership between Northern Virginia Community College, which we affectionately call NOVA, and George Mason University, affectionately known as George Mason. And really the purpose of Advance, it's going into its 8th year. It began in the fall of 2018, is to streamline the transfer process for community college students who are interested in pursuing a bachelor's degree. And that's really where this came from, the idea of Advance. We've had a few leadership changes at that presidential level. We've had a few more at that VP and provost level, but nevertheless, this continues to be really at the root of, again, the problem that we were trying to solve with the program and the opportunity we see to help contribute to transfer student success. And so we affectionately think of ourselves as a next generation transfer program. We pride ourselves on that. And really the goal, again, from executive leadership all the way down to the folks who are on the front line supporting students, is to really help them eliminate many of the transfer obstacles. We try to support learners in a number of different ways along their educational journey, but there's really 3 pillars that we do this with, and it is those clearly defined transfer pathways, holistic wraparound student support and academic coaching, as well as unique funding opportunities. Again, with all of these combined with the day-to-day work of our wonderful staff, and again, that continued executive leadership investment into the program, we're trying to help students complete their bachelor's degree in a more timely and cost-effective manner. All right, next slide.
All right, and to provide a little bit more context regarding our institutions, both NOVA and George Mason University are located in Northern Virginia in the suburbs of Washington, D.C. These are multi-campus institutions, and we are relatively large. NOVA serves over 70,000 students across 6 campuses, and of course, we have a robust online presence as well. And George Mason University serves over 40,000 students. With those numbers, that makes NOVA one of the largest community colleges in the nation and the largest public institution of higher education in Virginia. And George Mason University is the largest 4-year public institution in the Commonwealth. So we serve a great number of students. And what we also know of our institutions is that the transfer pipeline between NOVA and George Mason is the most robust in the state. meaning we send more students to George Mason University than any community college does to any four-year institution. Now, we have a long-standing history of working collaboratively together, but back in 2017, the presidents of both Nova and Mason, they saw opportunity for us to do more. So the presidents served a challenge to personnel at both institutions and said, as Rita mentioned, we really want you to be bold. We want you to reimagine what the transfer process could look like for students. And we want you to do that by identifying some of the common challenges and obstacles that students are encountering and figure out ways in which you can overcome those barriers in service to our students. So with that charge in mind, we did a deep dive into the data. We wanted to be sure that what we were doing was data informed. And as a result, we arrived at 4 key goals that we wanted to achieve. The first is that we wanted to increase degree completion. Now, when we talk about degree completion here, we don't just mean bachelor's degree completion, we mean associate's degree completion as well. Of course, we all know in the transfer space that completion leads to completion, meaning students who complete that associate's degree are more apt to persist and ultimately earn that bachelor's degree. The second and third goal that you see on this screen, those in many ways are connected. We wanted to decrease the amount of time that it was taking our students to complete their credentials, and we also wanted to decrease the amount of money that it was costing them. We know that time is money for our students, so we wanted to be sure that we were building a streamlined process for students so that they could enter the workforce in their chosen career field as soon as possible. And of course, we know that ever present at the top of our students' mind are concerns about how they're going to afford their education. So we wanted to be sure that when we built Advance, that we were building a program that was as affordable as possible. And then the final goal is we wanted to increase the amount of support that we are providing to students, specifically in that academic advising space. And so with those goals in mind, we went about building the program that we know today as Advance. Next slide, please. Now, there are a number of different benefits associated with the Advance program, but we want to highlight 4. And the reason that we highlight these 4 benefits is because time and time again, when we do student surveys and focus groups, these are the things that our students are indicating as being the difference makers. These are the reasons that students join the program. These are the reasons that students find the program to be so beneficial. The first is that streamlined admission process. Students join the Advanced program pretty early on in their time at the community college. We have this unofficial motto in the transfer space, this idea of begin with the end in mind. So students join Advanced between the completion of 0 to 30 credits. They do so by following a 2-step process that will literally take them no more than 5 minutes to complete. Once they officially join the program, they're given a series of milestones that they need to meet in order to officially matriculate to Mason. Those milestones are very clear, they're very straightforward. Students need to earn an associate's degree, have a certain GPA, it's a 2.5 for most programs, and in some cases, they need to complete certain courses and receive certain grades in those courses. Provided they do those things, we have designed a back-end process to move those students from one institution to the other. What that means is that our advanced students don't have to fill out that transfer application to Mason. They don't have to pay that application fee. And that last semester, they don't have that added pressure and concern that we know so many students have about, am I going to get accepted? Am I not? What is that application process going to look like? The second benefit associated with Advance is that our students have access to clearly defined curricular pathways. In other words, once a student indicates what it is they want to study, we tell students exactly what degree to pursue at Nova, what classes to take, and how those courses will then transfer to Mason. Those transfer resources go one step further to show students what they'll have left to complete once they get to the 4-year institution. Now, what differentiates these pathways from other pathways that you might see is that we lock in a student's catalog year, meaning that we don't subject students to curricular changes either at Nova or at Mason after they declare an interest in the program. The third benefit is that our students have early access to Mason. So while they are Nova Nighthawks, they are considered non-degree seeking students at George Mason, meaning they get access to the resources and services at the four-year institution, as well as the resources and services at the community college. What I like to tell students is essentially, you get the best of both worlds. We find this to be particularly impactful for students because it gives them insight into what it's like to be at Mason. They familiarize themselves with the resources that are available, the terminology that's used. So once they officially start at Mason, they can really hit the ground running. And then finally, our advanced students have access to coaches. Our coaches are oftentimes referred to as the secret sauce of the advanced program. These are individuals that work with our students while they are at Nova. Our advanced academic coaches are actually co-hired by both institutions, and these individuals will spend half of their time at Nova and half of their time at Mason. They assist our students with a number of different things, including academic advising, making sure that they're staying on that pathway. They assist students with getting connected to resources at both institutions. They play a key role in the matriculation process. And then what I think is the hallmark of this role is that these individuals are certified coaches, meaning they take a holistic approach to their work, understanding that what happens outside of the classroom has a direct impact on a student's ability to excel inside of the classroom. Once students make that transition to Mason, they also get the support of what we call a success coach, who does many of the same things as our advanced academic coaches. So now I'm going to turn it over to Rita to talk a little bit about our data.
Great, thank you so much. And as Tanya had mentioned, I mean, one piece of the overall strategy is making sure that you're continuing to look at your data, disaggregate, and really engage in iterative improvement, right, based on the student populations that you're serving and in support of their transfer success. And so this is where we stand as of the end of our spring 2025 recruitment cycle. We've had over 6,000 students actively in the program, 34% being Pell eligible and 52% being first gen. This is more of a newer piece of data that we're tracking just because of how the institutions have tracked this over time. And that is self-reported by the student. You can see the race and ethnicity breakdown here. So we are a minority majority serving program. What I think is very interesting when we look at gender demographics is that we're seeing a little bit of a difference in what we see in terms of national trends. So 48.3% of our students identify as female, whereas 49.8% of our students identify as male. We overwhelmingly serve FTIC or first time in college students, 18 to 24 at 76%. And another interesting piece of information, given the community college population is, who we're working with, 56%, right, being full-time, as opposed to, I think it's traditionally at Nova around 70% of students are part-time. So thinking about it that way. Our top areas of study are business and hospitality, information technology and computer sciences, math and engineering. And next slide. And then when we look at our advanced student success metrics and we look across advanced, we did start looking at retention and graduation rates beginning with our fall 2020 cohort. You'll see that we have very high numbers if you look at our retention and completion rate across all cohorts, and this is a weighted average. We're at about 80% retention or completion for the fall 2020, fall 2021, fall 2022, and fall 2023 cohorts. The average time to degree after being admitted into the program, so again, advanced admission to graduation from George Mason, is 3.5 years. There are eligibility eligibility requirements that the student must meet in order to be admitted into the program. They can have no more than 30 credits. So even if we're adding another year, 4.5 years time to degree is still way better, right, than the national average. At this point in time, we have over 1,000 advanced graduates. Again, this is as of spring 2025. And currently, one data element that we're very interested in tracking are students who graduate with their bachelor's and continue into graduate studies. So we have over 130 students who are currently at George Mason pursuing graduate studies, both master's and doctoral work. And we're looking to expand our studies and our findings on this through National Student Clearinghouse data. All right, I think that wraps us up for advance.
Thank you so much, Rita and Jen. So rather than go into a panel, because we are creeping up on that hour mark, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kick off the audience Q&A with a question of my own and a lightning round from the 5 panelists. So it's pick your poison. So are there any specific strategies that you've used to gain your president's attention to support transfer? Or put another way, is there any advice you'd give to our friends on the line who might not have the executive leadership support they need to advance the initiatives that they would like to? Are there any tips and tricks that you would have for those folks? So lightning round, who wants to volunteer to go first?
I can jump in if that's okay.
Go ahead, Jen. Yeah.
Sure. So I think that my biggest piece of advice is that you have to tell your story. And that means a lot of different things. So I think part of telling your story is articulating how the work that you're doing or what you want to do aligns with the institutional mission and the strategic priorities of the institutions. Presidents want to hear how this work is going to increase ROI, increase student success outcomes, increase economic mobility. So the more that you can tie what you're looking to do together with those components, I think that helps to build a really compelling argument. Of course, we also really recommend leveraging your data, looking at institutional data, data between your dyads, state level and national data. Highlight what is going well, where are your areas of opportunity, or what are some of the challenges that are being encountered. And of course, when we're talking about data, I think that the strongest data that can be used in this space is the student voice, student surveys, focus groups. Your students are your consumers. So if your presidents are hearing that this is what students need, this is what they want, I think that really plays well into ultimately helping them to make a decision that would be favorable to enhancing your work in the transfer space. And then the last recommendation that I have is coming forth with a concrete plan. What executive leaders don't necessarily want is they don't want to hear this laundry list of problems with no solutions. So if you can carve out a plan, and yes, it's going to be iterative, and yes, it's going to change over time, but give them a sense of direction as to what you're thinking, that can be helpful. And my recommendation when building that plan as a community college transfer professional is that you want to do so in concert with your partner. With the advanced program, we really ascribe to that proverb of if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go further, go together. So working with your partner to create a clear vision to your work and a concrete plan, I think can really be very impactful when presenting these ideas to executive leaders.
Ashley, Marcy.
Jen should just preach. I would say ditto. Telling the story. Christina is that story for AWC, and that brings the emotional connection and also pushes the executives out of the way because they don't have that firsthand knowledge, but our individuals do. And you let the walk be the part that's talking. And something that we tried, and maybe this is something you already do, our students speak and present at every one of our monthly board meetings. And their stories continue to hearken back to what our staff and our executive team could never emote in the way that our students can. And that helps shift orientation to really truly understanding our students' journey, and allows really hard conversations to be continued to be brought forward. It is hard work. It is difficult work. It is expensive. It is hard to anticipate changes, staff changes, budget limitations, policies, politics. It is hard work. There is no clear path forward, but it is messy and it is worth it.
Let me jump in with another question from the Q&A, and others feel free to raise your hand or Q&A jump in. Let's talk about the sustainability of this work, because we've seen a lot of the good practices are good practitioners, but how do you set up systems that are sustainable even when transitions happen? Somebody asked this question. I'll go to the Mason folks, because in the Nova, I know y'all have been working at this.
Yeah, so I think that that's sort of my sphere of influence, so to speak, on Advance. And again, I think we've had a lot of luck with, executive leadership who's been invested, but they also trust that they've invested also in the right people, right, being the caretakers or the shepherds, right, of the projects. And so, we have that buy-in, but we also have that latitude to do what we need to do, and how we have achieved that is through a number of different committees. And so a policy committee, right? So we have academic policies at Nova, we have academic policies at George Mason, but how do they impact, the advanced program and its students? So that policy wing, and then making sure, that those policies are agreed upon by, they're agreed upon, there's buy-in for them, and that they're implemented immediately. And that's where we have the operational wing, which is what I've primarily been responsible for with Advance, so that there are teeth, right, in those policies. And so what we have found, I believe, and I'll let Jen also chime in here, is that with those policies and those continued operations that also are built on making sure that we're also maximizing, right, leveraging technology. We're doing things so that things aren't so manual, or they rely on individual people to do those. Once we have those widely accepted policies and practices, and they're sort of codified over time, I think that that's also been the secret to our success, regardless of either the executive leadership or even that mid-level leadership transition piece.
Yeah, and I think just going off of what Rita mentioned, it's about how you ingrain this work into the fabric of your institutions. Advance is not something other than. It is part of Nova. It's part of Mason. It's part of how we do business. And to Rita's point, by having all of these different committees, we've been able to really create transfer champions across both institutions. The individuals that work on Advance are not just individuals with the word transfer in their title. They're not just admissions representatives. Faculty are involved, our deans are involved, our executive leaders, our technology folks, our marketing teams. It is a full institutional effort across both Nova and Mason. And the more transfer champions you get on board, that helps to ensure that your work is long lasting. In the event that somebody leaves, there are other people that can carry the work forward.
I think another way you can think about it as well is where we got a chance to celebrate various niches that our cohort work allows us to meet the needs of those niche markets. And sometimes those needs of those students transform or become blended into cohort programs. We will never institutionally do the same thing because we've always done it that way, because that is not sustainable. So I think what is possible in our transfer teams is it allows us to be playful in small spaces to test out where the success metrics continue to lean and will benefit institutionally all of our students. And also, if it's necessary, provide how the framework will allow a clear start and a clear end to massage what is meant to be institutionalized And then what is not the right fit? The timing will be just as important, as well as the fiscal components there. And that's where the data is very helpful, but that has to be with realistic advanced time paired together with a clear plan. If your executive team is willing to have comfort with a little bit of ambiguity, that can then be driven with sustainability, with the data, with a clear plan, and with frequent conversations and realistic expectations. If somebody is expecting something to be changed overnight in 3 months, that will be an unmet expectation and only lead to frustration.
Thank you, Ashley, and thank you, Marcy and Jen and Rita. We appreciate all these insights that you've been sharing. We're getting to the top of the hour, so I want to pass it back to Emily to close us out.
Yeah, thank you so much, John. And thank you, panelists, for joining us today. There is obviously great transfer work going on in the country, and that's always so energizing to all of us on the ground doing the work. So thank you for sharing your great successes and walking through these questions with us.